pattern video? Have you guys seen the pattern video? So this is the sewing version of the pattern I previously uploaded, I think 2-3 days ago. So if you haven't seen that particular pattern drafting, you should leave this video right now, because what the why are you here? Like, you need to have seen the pattern to understand what we're about to do. So go watch the pattern and then come back. The link to the particular pattern I'm going to be using to sew this pant is going to be on the description box below. So in case you don't have your pattern yet, just go watch that video, draft out your pattern, and then come back to this particular video, because this is the sewing version. Okay. Hi, my name is Vivian Okeke. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're seeing me for the first time. Please do not forget to click on the subscribe button right now as you're seeing my face. Click on the subscribe button, and don't forget to also help me like this video if you find it interesting. Do not just like it, make sure you find it interesting before you like it, okay? And yeah, if you want to share, be my guest. Anyways, during my process of making this pant, I realized some sewing mistakes that I'm not gonna say everybody do, because I don't know what you do when you sew, but this sewing mistake is something I did, and I realized it on time, and I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I remember these mistakes so that I can tell you not to do the same mistakes when you're trying to join your pieces together, okay? And I'm just going to carry you guys through the whole process so you don't make my mistake, or you don't make the same mistake I made. Yotara, do you understand? I got this as the birthday gift from Juliet Rack, and I love it.
This is a Pinterest dress that has been trending, and I want to make one for myself. Voila, can you see? I just made a dress under 10 minutes, guys.
Anything free is my jam. Okay, so Juliet Rack, thank you for the gift. If you don't understand why we draft out one pattern when we're drafting out our pant pattern, please watch this next video. I'm going to be explaining why we have one pattern for the front and one pattern for the back, when obviously you have two leg in front and the same two leg at the back. Just pay attention to the next video. After drafting your front pattern, this is what you should have. So let me move back a bit. On here it is written center front, and this is where we have the crouch. You guys forget the light that is bouncing from my ring light. Let's focus on the pattern again. I know it's very distracting, but yeah, this is the crouch length. So this is how long your crouch needs to be. That's the crouch length, not the depth. Here is the depth. Where we create the crouch extension is the depth, and this space here is the crouch length, and this is for the front pattern. So once you're done, this is what this particular part, this is what it does. It goes in between your leg like this. So like I said, here is the side seam, and that is why we did the shaping, and then from the shaping we connected it to the hip, so we can have that from here to here. Okay, ignore my shorts. So this is what it practically does. Okay, the crouch extension, which is the crouch length, goes into the leg. And this is one side of your pants pattern. Okay, this is just one side. Can you see that? Good. So we did just one pattern, that's for the front, and when we're cutting this particular one pattern, we're going to fold our fabric into two. If I get the two side left, right and left, okay, this is my left, so right and left. Now when we're drafting, we just drafted out one pattern, and when we're cutting this particular pattern on the fabric, we're going to fold the fabric into two, so we can get for the left and for the right. And that is why it is very important that when you're folding your fabric to place your pattern, you fold your fabric right side facing right side. Okay, the good side of the fabric should face the good side, the two fabric good sides should face each other. So when you cut on the wrong side and you open this up, you have two different sides, left and right. This is the back pattern, and we also have just one pattern for the back. But when we're cutting, we're going to cut to like the front. And this is the crouch length for the back, okay? How long the crouch for the back needs to be. So I have my front here and I have my back. So practically, what we just did now is make the front, this is the front fabric here, and this is the back. You get so this is the, remember that I measured my crouch length from here to here. That's from the back to the front, or from the front to the back. So this is practically the crouch length. This U shape you are seeing in between my pattern from the front to the back. Okay, the whole U shape is the crouch length. And I hope you guys understand. So we're going to be doing more breakdown as we go along in the Teach Yourself How to Sew Pant edition. So let's just go ahead and cut out the fabric. The next thing I'm going to do is fold my fabric into two and then place my pattern on it. So I have folded the fabric into two and I have my front and my back pattern placed here. Like I'm always emphasizing, your fabric needs to be folded into two because we are cutting for the two sides of your leg, like the both side of your leg, the right leg and the left leg for the front, and the same goes for the back, the right leg and the left leg. Now while I was cutting, I left on the fabric, I left 0.25 inch round the fabric or the pattern, and that is how I cut out my pattern on the fabric. I left half an inch on the top here for joining the band. I'm going to be sewing the band on the half an inch, but every other side I left like quarter an inch, which is like 0.25 around the pattern. Did the same thing at the back, left half an inch for joining to the band, and then every other place 0.25 allowance, and that's just it. And make sure you fold your fabric into two first before you place the back pattern and the front pattern, because you need two pieces of each. Okay, so see, you need two pieces, one right leg, one left leg, one right leg, one left leg front. I've gone ahead to cut my two piece for the front, and you can see this is one and this is another. So this is it. This is it. This is it. This is it. So I'm going to join from the crouch. What is it? This is literally it. Okay. So the same way I have two pieces here, that's the same way I'm going to have two pieces at the back, and we're going to join this. So let's go join this quickly. This is the sewing mistake that I actually realized in the process of trying to join the pieces together. I realized that whenever I add sewing allowance to my pieces, like my pattern while cutting on the fabric, sometimes I forget how much sewing allowance I add, and when I'm sewing, I forget to sew all the sewing allowance in, especially when I'm trying to create a tight fit pant. Now, while making this particular pant, I did the same mistake and I had to lose and then measure out my measurements on the fabric. I had to measure like on the pieces after cutting. I have to measure and know my points to my point so I can stitch according to, you know, the measurements that I was working with. So that's the number one sewing mistake, not sewing in all the allowance that you leave while you're trying to either draft out your pattern or while you're trying to cut your pattern on the fabric. On this video, I'm going to be, carrying you guys through how you need to sew in all the allowances, so that in case you're going for a very tight fit pant, you actually sew in all the allowance to get that tight fit that you deserve. Okay, this is how I joined my pieces together. I'm going to be starting with the front piece. So the two front piece, place them right side facing right side, and we're going to be sewing on the crouch length. Okay, so this is how I do mine. I sew the two front piece together first, then I sew the two back piece together, and I sew on the crouch length. So while I was sewing, I sewed in this particular part by 0.75 inches. Okay, I sewed by 0.75 inches so that I can get the tight fit that I want on this pant. So I'm taking in almost all the not almost all the allowance that I left for this particular project. I am taking everything in. So this is how the front piece look. This is what your result should look like. And next I'm going to be joining the two back pieces together. Okay, and the same thing I did for the front, I'm going to be doing for the back piece. I am going to be sewing on the crouch length, and I'm going to be sewing this by 0.75 inches. So I'm just going to advise you to always remember the allowance you leave and sew that in, because it is very important to take in all the allowance. So this is my back, and this is how it looks. Now the next thing I'm going to do is join the front and the back pieces together to get the pant. Okay, and before I did this, I decided to measure out my measurements. Okay, I decided to measure my measurement on the waist, and I did the same thing on the hip, just because I want to sew in everything that I am meant to sew in, take in all the allowance, and make sure what I am left with is my actual measurement on the pant. And while I did this, I realized that I need to take in 1 inch on the sides, and for the inseam I am going to be taking in 0.75 on the inseam. And if you remember very well, we left 1.5 inch allowance on the back pattern. 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. I'm just going to extend all the points by 1.5. Now you can choose to extend the cut by 1.5 and this other side by 1 inch. It's up to you. That is practically the allowance we are sewing in right now. That is what we're using to sew in this particular piece together, plus the 0.25 inches I left while cutting my pattern on the fabric. I hope you guys are able to get the mask that I am doing here, the mask that I'm talking about. Let's take a pause and talk about this mask. While drafting out the back pattern, I added 1.5 inch on all points. While cutting my pattern now on the fabric, I left 0.25 inch on the sides and on the center back and the center front. So for a tight fit, I need to take in 1.75 inches on my fabric. So what I'll be doing is I am going to be sewing 0.75 here on the inseam. That's this crotch side is the inseam. The crotch side, your inner thighs, is the inseam. I am taking 0.75 inch, and on the sides I'll be taking 1 inch, and this is just going to help me achieve the tight fit that I want on my pants. So if you don't want a tight fit, please do not do this. Do not take in all the allowance. Okay, just measure out your actual measurement on the fabric, and you can use your chalk to indicate this so you can sew on the line. It is easier to do that as a beginner so you can get something that you're looking for. Okay, just take your time, take your tape and measure. Okay. The second mistake is the ear, hip ear. I don't know if you guys know what the hip ear is. Have you ever made a trouser before and after making it, you want to fit it? You're seeing something bulge out at the hip side. That is the hip ear. So that's something that happened to me while I was trying to sew my piece together. Now, while we're drafting out the pattern, I don't know if you've paid attention to the pattern very well. You're going to notice that from the waist to the hip and from the hip to the new point, there is a hip ear happening around the hip. Like there is a curve. It's just too much. Now, while you're sewing your pieces together after cutting your pattern on the fabric, You need to pay attention to that hip here, and you need to find a way to sew it in so that it does not affect your pants. And that is something I actually noticed while I was, making my own pants. I had to like lose and resew. So that's the second mistake. Make sure you avoid having that hip here, okay? While connecting your front piece and your back piece together, sew in a way where there is no too much curvy area or too much pointy area, especially from the waist to the hip and from the hip to the knee point. Pay attention to that, okay? Now I have to attach my band to the pants, and I'm going to just go ahead and loosen the center back, because that is the point where I'm going to start attaching my band from, and also that is where my zip is going to be sitting. Now you note that this particular pants that I drafted, the pattern, I did not leave allowance for zip. For that reason, I am going to be attaching my zip to the back, okay, the center back. I left this project hanging for over 2 days now. So I'm about to do everything. I have my band cut out. I haven't been really inspired to sew. And I work with inspiration. So yeah, I'm getting myself together. And it's go time. Okay, you guys, with the time. Before attaching the band to the pants, I am going to just iron my pant piece flat. And this step, trust me, it is very, very important, okay? Ironing down your fabric, not just for your pants, any project that you're doing, for every step that you take, if you iron it down before you take the next step, this is just going to help you get like a clean finish, and also give you like a future perspective of what your outfit is just going to look like when you're done. And that is why I took this step. So you see what my pant is looking like. I'm already loving the results. Now that everywhere is flat, I am just going to bring out my tape and measure the waist on my pants, because I need this particular measurement on the waist to be the same measurements that I was working with from the onset, okay, which is my round waist, 30 inches. So that's what I'm trying to confirm here. I'm trying to confirm that I have 30 or 31 inches, because I still have like an allowance on the back, okay, like allowance for the joining that I use my seam ripper to open. So I'm looking for 31 or 31.25, and I got 35. So I'll take this back to my sewing machine and take in the excess, and then I cut out my band. Now this is the fabric for my band. I have gone ahead to cut out a long piece of fabric. The length of this fabric is 5 inches. And the width of this fabric is 37.5 inches or 37. Now 37 because I need the band fabric to be excess. When we're attaching it to the pants, if there is excess, we're going to trim it out, okay? But we need it to be more than the waist measurement. So now I'm just going to do what I need to do on my band before I go attach it to the pants, which is fold the top and the bottom of the length by 1/2 inch, or fold in 1/2 inch on the bottom, 1/2 inch on the top of the length, okay? So when I fold in 1/2 inch on the bottom here and I iron this down flat, and I do the same on the top, it means that I have taken away 1 inch from the length of this band. And then I'll go ahead and fold this into 2 equal parts, and I'm just going to be getting 2 inches as the length of the band at last, which is what I'm looking for. So right now I'm taking in the 1/2 inch on the top of the band, and I'm just going to make sure that it lays really flat, okay? Just the way the bottom is laying flat, I'll make sure that the top here lays really flat. Very important. Now that is done, I'm going to fold this into 2 equal parts. and then I'm going to use my hot iron again and press this flat. Okay, it needs to lay flat and it needs to stay flat. So this is how I was able to achieve my 2 inches band. And if you remember while we were drafting out the pattern, we took away 2 inches from the measurements because we were going to attach an external band. Before I start marking down my vertical measurements, I'm going to be taking away my band measurements, okay? My band length, I'm going to take that away before I mark my waist to hip. So my band length attached to my trouser is going to be 2 inches. And I said do only this step if you're attaching external band, take away 2 inches before you mark any point. But if you're not taking an external band, if you're not attaching an external band, don't do that. So this is 2 inches length of band. I'll be showing you guys the process I'm going to follow to join my band to the pants. Now I'm just going to trim this. You know, I have excess of fabric here for the band, which is 37. I have so many excess, so I'm just going to trim out like at least half an inch, making sure that all points is really equal and flat. So I'm just going to trim the edge here. You can see that it is not equal there, so I'm just going to trim it off, and I'll be trimming more of it when I attach the band. Okay, you guys are going to be following the whole process and you're going to see how I do this. So at this point my band is ready to be attached to the waist point on my pants, and let's go sew. To attach the band, I am going to open one of the half an inch that I have on my band, and I'll place this on the wrong side of my fabric, my pants fabric, making sure I leave 0.75 inch worth of fabric out first before I start sewing. Okay, so I'm leaving out 0.75 inch first on the band before I start sewing it to my pants, and I'm sewing the band to the pants from the wrong side. Okay, so the wrong side of my pants is what I place my band on, and I'm sewing that. You see that half an inch line that I created while I was trying to iron that half an inch down? It created a line, so I'm following that line and I'm just sewing my band to the pants. So please pay attention to this part and see what I am sewing and see the line that I am following to sew. So automatically this is like a guideline. That line that was created from ironing down the half an inch, that's the guideline of the line you should follow and sew. Okay, never ignore your guidelines. So once I was done joining this from the wrong side, I am going to be flipping this to the right side to top stitch. But before then we need to close the band. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. Let me show you guys. So when I fold it and top stitch, this is what it's going to look like. Very clean, right? So this is how it's going to look like when we top stitch. Now you can see that there is excess here and we're going to be sewing that in, and there is also excess on this other side. Let me show you guys. So this is where I have so much excess, and I'm just going to trim it and leave the 0.75 inch I left on the other side. So I'll trim off almost everything, leaving 0.75 inch worth of fabric, and I'll show you guys how I'll close this. So I'll fold my band fabric right side facing right side, and I'm just going to sew in that 0.75 I left, that excess I left before joining my band to the pants, that excess. So make sure you're folding your band fabric right side facing right side, and it should be equal. Okay, take in that 0.75 inches excess and trim, then flip it back to the right side. So I'm going to flip this back to the right side. See, now this is just going to give you like an automatically clean finish, or it's just going to automatically give you a clean finish. I don't even know if I'm speaking the English right. So now I can go ahead and top stitch my band on the right side of my pants, and I'm going to be top stitching very, very close to the edge of the band. Okay, putting it in place or holding it in place to my pants. It's just gonna hold in place. I don't know English. English, don't be your mate. So So I hope you guys are understanding. Please let me know in the comment section if you are having any issue with any of the process. I am here for it all, okay? So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and keep top stitching, and before I get to the other side of my pants, I'll do the same thing I did on the fourth side. I'll close that SS and then I continue. So this SS here, I'll fold my band in like right side facing right side, equal parts, take in the 0.75 SS that we left, okay, or taking that SS. See, I'm just making sure that everywhere is equal. Why I sew, okay, equal, and then I sew. So I'm taking in the 0.75 inch SS on the band, and then I'm going to flip this to the right side. Make sure you trim. I forgot to trim here, but make sure you trim. Now I'm just going to flip this back to the right side, and then I'll continue my top stitching. See? So these little details are what you need to pay attention to, especially if you're a beginner, because this is just going to help your pants come out really clean, you know, making it look like a ready to wear outfit. Now it's time for me to attach my zip. Now, like I said, I did not create like extra allowance for the zip. I'm going to be using the sewing allowance that I have left on the center back, okay, because my zip is going to be sitting at the back of my pants. So we're going to be creating more videos where we start leaving extra allowance for the zip, or creating a zipper fly, and then also adding pockets to our pants. Okay, it's a gradual process. Now I calculated how long I want my zip space to be on the back, and I wanted it to be like 9 inches. And now I grab my zip, I will start sewing. So this is how I sew my zip. On the zip, I'm going to be leaving like 1 inch SS before I place it to the start point of my zip on the fabric. So 1 inch first out, so 1 inch here, I'll place it for 1 inch, and then from the start point of my pants, I'll make sure that 1 inch of the zip is already sitting down first before I start placing, you know, the rest of the zip on my fabric to sew. And I'm sewing this, making sure that the zip is sitting on the right side, the good side of my fabric, okay? So you always attach your zip to the good side of your fabric, because there's a certain way you're going to flip it and it's going to come out looking nice, okay? So I'm sewing my zip from the good side, following the teeth of my zip, okay? The teeth is my guideline. The line before the teeth is what I'm using to sew my zip. And I already have the guideline on the fabric from when I joined my center back together and then I loosen it. So I have a guideline already. I'll turn to this other side and do the same thing. I have like a zip video on this channel, but it's old. I don't know if I should do like an updated process of how you attach your zip, like just mainly focused on how to attach a zip, not just, you know, sewing your zip while you're sewing your pants. I want to create a video. I don't know, let me know in the comment section what you think. Should I make a dedicated video for the zip? Let me know. So once that is done, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. Then zip my zip, or take my zip down. Zip my zip down, take my zip down like this, cut out almost all of the SS zip, leaving 1 inch worth of SS, and now fold that 1 inch into my band, and then I'll just stop stitch on top of the band like this, just to make sure that everything sits in place. So if you're still confused here, let me know, okay? This particular video is just we trying out a pattern. The sewing video is not, it's not like a sewing video, it's a sewing vlog. It's just us trying to, you know, test the pattern that we created, you know, to see how it fits. So if you want like a detailed tutorial, let me know that I'm going to be, adding this to the list of the things that I need to show you guys. And yeah, I went ahead to hem the base of my pants. I just hemmed it, and you guys, that is how I created this pants. Okay, please let me know in the comment section if there is any question, suggestion, whatever it is. But make sure that you stay tuned, because more videos are coming on this pants. Okay, more videos are coming on how to create. We're just gonna keep going at it until we get something that we are all comfortable with. While I was sewing my piece together, remember while I was drafting the back pattern, I added 1.5 inch to all the measurements on the front pattern, right? Like I used my front pattern to duplicate to get my back pattern, and I just added extra 1.5 to the back. That's what made it the back pattern. So now while sewing, that 1.5 came in handy, because that's the measurement I'm going to be using to join my front and my back together. The front piece and the back piece, I'll be joining this with the 1.5 inch allowance that I left on the back pattern. So while sewing on the sides of my pants, I sewed in 1 inch, while on that's your center front and your center back, I sewed that in by 0.75 inches, because while I was still cutting my pattern on the fabric, I still left like 0.25 inch around the whole fabric. Like around the whole pattern, I left like extra 0.25. yeah, so I have like so much allowances, and for that reason, while sewing my pieces together, I sewed the sides by 1 inch, the middle point or the inner seam, or how do they call it, the inseam, I sewed the inseam by 0.75, and by doing this, I was able to take out all the allowances I left on my fabric. So please do not forget to sew all the allowances that you leave while you're cutting your pattern on your fabric, and even the allowances you left on your pattern while you're drafting, take that in, especially if you are going for a tight fit. Take in all the allowance. Okay. Okay, for this pattern that we just drafted and sew, after looking at the fits, I'm going to be giving this like a 70% over 100, or a 65%, because I am still not yet satisfied. Okay, let's give it 70%, because I'm like somewhat satisfied, but I'm still not fully satisfied. So the quest is not over. I'm still going to be creating more patterns. So stay tuned to all the videos that are going to be coming for us to make pants. And you guys, please don't forget to subscribe. Just stick around, okay, because this is Teach Yourself How to Sew. A lot is coming, because the learning never stops for me. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to be seeing you guys on my next Teach Yourself How to Sew. Hope you had fun on this video. I love you so much, my amazing creatives. Mwah! Bye.